connected. Energy, science, quantum physics. This beautiful practice of being rooted in the frequency of love, light, and unity. We are inviting the collective consciousness to awaken and ascend. Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to Rooted Frequency, the space where vibration meets transformation. I'm your host, Tiffany Haney, and together we'll ground down into the beautiful light that is you, one frequency at a time. Today we're diving deep into a topic that stirs something very raw, very real, the shadow side of being quote-unquote chosen. Specifically, how this archetype plays out in the world of spiritual influencers, gurus, and those in visible leadership roles in spiritual spaces. Because there's a slippery slope from sharing your gifts to lording over others with ego and judgment. Somewhere along the way, this idea of being chosen has shifted, morphing from sacred service into spiritual status. The language of healing and ascension is entangled in aesthetics, hierarchies, and perfectly curated personas. We've all seen those gurus who preach unity and are standing on a platform of superiority. And the coaches who say, I'm just here to guide you, but everything seems to center around them. So today, instead of talking about how to enlighten ourselves and how to up-level our own spirituality, I've been going down a rabbit hole of all of just the toxic spirituality everywhere, all around us. And I think it's important to talk about, not to bring anyone down a peg, but more to be real with our spiritual journey. Because it is not all rainbows and butterflies. It is a very up and down path that we're on. And that's life, right? And I've been having a lot of realizations around that, and I just want to share those with you today. So we're talking about this shadow, the shadow side of being chosen, not in the deeply personal soul mission kind of way, but in a way it manifests in spiritual influence. The Instagram gurus, the quantum up-leveling coaches, and starseed celebrities. These leaders whose platforms have become entangled with ego and performance. This fine line needs to be talked about. Where do we cross over from sharing our gifts as we are supposed to and performing your divinity? Between leading and then needing to be followed. And between service and self-importance. I am not here to shame anyone. I absolutely understand the seduction of being seen, especially as a projector in human design. We desire recognition very deeply, and rarely do I feel like a success without some sort of recognition. So many spiritual podcasters and influencers will say they're also not here for the subscribers or the likes, and that's BS too. There is a way to do both because wanting to be acknowledged is human. Wanting people to see all of the work you're putting in and appreciate it is normal. I absolutely feel better when I put out a podcast episode that I put my heart and soul into when it gets more traction. Because feeling invisible never feels good. Sorry, I had to pause for a moment to take off my sweatshirt. I got hot. So now I'm covered in fuzz. But that's real, right? So we're going to talk about this fine line. We're going to explore it. We're going to look at when your identity becomes wrapped around being someone who knows something in particular. It becomes branding, right? And people begin to lose the very humility that made their channel a success in the first place. Spirituality is not a performance. And being chosen doesn't give you the right to bypass another's humanity. I can't stand that when we belittle the human condition. We would all feel so much better if we were just honest about the bullshit that we go through, that life is freaking hard. Especially if you want to make a difference. Because there is so much saturation in any online space that trying to be a voice within that saturated market is difficult. It's like a little drop in the pond. There's a pedestal trap, the savior complex, a ego that can be cloaked in light language. We have to look at how ego, power, and illusion creep into spiritual spaces. Because only by shining a light on these shadows can we be honest and stop feeling bad about the human condition. This is how we stay grounded in humility while holding the frequency of real leadership. So let's start with how social media has changed spirituality, because once upon a time it was just you and your guides and deep meditation. Now it's reels, hashtags, content calendars, and how can I make my latest video more algorithm friendly? Yes, I'm talking to you, YouTube. You seem to hate me. And yes, I'm glad that we have these online forums because we can make wisdom and knowledge more accessible than ever. You know, when something piques your fancy, you can go down the rabbit hole. There's beauty in that. But there's also a shadow to this visibility because platforms reward performance over presence. They want dramatic statements, flashy revelations, polished personas. Even as I knew I was going to put out this episode, I'm thinking, what is a good attention-grabbing thing I can put on the thumbnail? Which kind of sucks because really at the heart of it, I just want to have this conversation with you. And I shouldn't have to put something up like, I hate spiritual influencers that would make like people click on it, right? That feels very inauthentic and I can't do it. Everything is connected. Energy, science, quantum physics. I'm not saying I won't play the marketing game. I absolutely will, but it has to feel authentic. I can't do something that feels too ridiculous and also make someone click on it and then feel like I didn't deliver what I said I was going to. So we know that this side of things exist. We know that when we hit the follow button, when we hit like, when we share, we know that this is a brand, but something within us resonates with that brand. And I don't know about you, but there's been many a times when I've been following someone and I've watched them grow. And as they get bigger, I either see them stay true to their core or some stuff kind of sells out and, you unfollow. And the community that seems to be following them now has changed. And it's not for me to judge that, but I do want to just talk about it, that it exists. That we sometimes see these spiritual leaders that speak almost in codes and they're a few steps ahead. And they're always offering endless activations and never reveal anything true about themselves and their own integration. And coaches that make you buy their $1,000 package, and if you don't get something out of it, it's you're not ready for this frequency. Your nervous system can't handle this upgrade, or you're projecting your wounds onto me. And sometimes that's true. But oftentimes there is a subtle tone of condescension masked as spiritual maturity. And it's creating a distance. And that's what I don't like. Instead of creating a dialogue, instead of creating community, we are creating distance, this hierarchy. Power over instead of empowering together. Power with. And then it just becomes this performance of vulnerability. Just enough to appear relatable, but not enough to disrupt their image. And here's the truth. I feel this one deeply because I've never positioned myself as having all the answers. And I was just listening to someone actually earlier today, and they were saying how they were reflecting back on their journey 10 years ago on their podcast and how they used to question things and they didn't know anything. Who knows stuff? I mean, I don't know. Like the way he was saying it, because he went from a couple thousand followers to now 100,000 followers. It's like all of a sudden you know everything from your 10-year journey. This is such a tiny blip in existence. And so much of it we will never know. One thing I really loved, I don't know if you guys watch White Lotus. I won't, no, don't worry, no spoilers or anything, but even if you don't watch it, it doesn't matter. There's a Buddhist guru, and he says that part of the problem is that we are always questioning everything, and that's fine, but we have to be okay with the fact that we will never have answers. And I'm completely paraphrasing, but basically, life is full of questions. And it seems like the way to create a brand is only if you have the answer. So if I wanted to really go hard, then I would pay attention to my numbers like people tell me to, and I would be only about Lemurian starseeds, and I would pretend like I had all the answers. Like I 100% know everything about Lemuria, and I would book a ton of podcasts as a guest because people want the expert, right? But I can't stand the experts, personally. No one knows everything. I like to think of our spiritual path as like a big puzzle. And I have learned so much from other people. And sometimes it's like a little puzzle piece that I get to put together of my own story or my own narrative. I've always believed that we all have access to the answers. It's not like only some people have been chosen to remember. Saying this doesn't go viral. Nobody's going to send a clip of you saying, I don't have all the answers, but they will when someone says, I 100% know that I was the queen of Lumeria and the mer people. You know, they'll be like, look how cool this is. So I'm not packaging the one truth. And I'm not pretending to have the blueprint. And because of that, I'll probably continue to be overlooked, invisible even. And yeah, it hurts. It hurts sometimes to pour your heart, your spirit, your soul into something real and see others rise for offering the same message, but it's wrapped in more marketable, shinier paper. You know, I'm human, my ego wants to be seen, and I want that viral moment and the recognition too. But that's my ego, that's my human side. When I keep up my spiritual work, when I meditate, when I root down into my truth, I remember that if I went viral, it would be great for 2 seconds, and then you'd just want your next viral moment. It's never enough. We're always wanting to climb higher, surpass different levels, and each level doesn't make us happy. Virality is not validation. And it's okay to feel jealous. And for me, when jealousy creeps in, I acknowledge it. I send love to the version of myself that thought that she had to compete, and send love to whoever I am being envious over. And then I let it go. I release it. Because most of the time, those people aren't doing anything wrong. Their spark is real too. The system just rewards curation over connection. But I'm not going to flatten myself into some one-dimensional character that's more easy to put a brand around. Because I want to go along this journey with you. And you are not going to flatten yourself. You are not going to be interested in only one thing. Sure, we go through rabbit hole phases and you want to know all about Atlantis for 1 month, and the next month you're all into astrology and which parts of your chart explain different things from past lives. We go through these phases, and that's great. But I want to walk the journey with you. I want to know what you're into right now. And I want to discuss it. And I want you to know that if you felt overlooked yourself for being real, there's a space for you. I see you. This community sees you. If your authenticity isn't niche enough, I hear you. And I honor you. The information that we share doesn't necessarily have to be marketable to be meaningful. You are not here to perform your light. You are here to live it. And living in your light requires living in your truth. Sharing your journey in an honest and authentic way. And then if you see people passing you up, that's that. You're still standing in your truth, at least. And I think a lot of us feel being left behind And it's something that we're not allowed to say out loud for some reason. Because in spiritual spaces, we're told and we believe that we should root for each other. And that's true. That we're here to rise together. That there's room for all of us. And I think deep down, we do root for each other. We do celebrate collectively these wins, and we do want our friends to shine. But can't both emotions live within me? We know that we're a soul in a body. So things have to be more complex than the joy that you feel for them. Can't you also feel an ache in your belly for yourself? Because it stings sometimes. And it's not a sting out of jealousy or bitterness, but out of the very human question. When is it my turn? Is my truth not enough? Am I being seen at all? Those questions don't make us less spiritual. It makes you human. And in a way, doesn't that make you more spiritual? Our bodies are supposed to be these spiritual temples housing our beautiful souls. So shouldn't we get to know our temple, all parts of it, light and shadow, where we can hold the light for others and still long for our own? That you can love and appreciate someone else's growth, but still grieve your own slow season. And obviously this applies to so much more than just influencers and business owners. Sometimes we feel this pressure that everyone's moving on. Everyone around me is getting married and I'm still single. Everyone around me has their job that they love and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. You can be happy for your friend who got the promotion and has it all figured out, but you can also be sad for yourself that you're flailing. Both of these things can be true. Both can be sacred. And both can live in the same breath. So if you've been feeling that, if you've been cheering on others while quietly wondering if anyone sees you, I see you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are on a path that may not be paved with metrics, but you know what it's paved with? Meaning. And maybe that is the deeper kind of success that we're meant to be building here. Why is it that when we choose to live with our truth, when we lead from the heart, when we refuse to bend ourselves to fit into a niche, brand, algorithm-friendly version of ourselves, or even just what your parents want from you in your everyday life, why does that not always pay off? Everyone wants to tell you your time is coming. But is it possible that sometimes we will just always be overlooked? Like we're doing the deeper work and the spotlight will keep finding someone else, someone flashier, louder, more polished, more sellable. Because if the system that we're in is built for one thing, is it going to change all of a sudden to have it be your time? The system is not built for depth. These platforms we're on, they don't reward nuance. They reward clicks. They don't seek out soul, they seek engagement. And truth, like real embodied truth from a grounded space, is not always loud. It's not always digestible in 30 seconds to be a reel that can be shared 1 million times. Truth asks you to slow down, to feel, to be in something uncomfortable. And that doesn't always convert in a world built on scrolling. And of course, there's always the fact that realness, keeping it real with people, it's confronting. It's kind of been an issue my entire life that I have felt people felt like I was coming at them when I'm just trying to come at them with truth. When you show up in your wholeness, light, shadow, scars and all, it can be too much for some people. But we are inviting people to meet themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. It's obviously easier to follow a curated version of spirituality. Here's my 5-step method to high vibes. Buy this and you will ascend. Manifest this way and everything gets easier. That sells. Because it's speaking to the human part of you. It does not ask much of the soul. When you come through real, saying, this path will shake you. It will make you question everything, but it will also set you free. That kind of message shows people that they have to work for something, and it is going to cost them something to achieve. And not everyone is ready to pay that price. These people are branding a shortcut to enlightenment. So if you're not promising transformation in exchange for a perfectly curated feed, you're walking the real path, the messy, sacred, slow one. And it's not going to go viral, probably. But it does go deep. You're not overlooked because you're doing it wrong. You're overlooked because you're doing it real. And in a system that hasn't learned how to see that yet. Imagine if the YouTube algorithm could actually seek out truth tellers that were coming from a grounded, loving space. It would really flip everything on its head, wouldn't it? And I even see this kind of thing in the real world, in person with clients. Like some want a quick spiritual fix or to have their reading of the future and not have to put any work of their own into it. For example, I had a gentleman call me and he said that he was having a lot of evil spirits in his home. First, I believe that, yes, there are demons, and I believe in angels, but I also believe that a lot of paranormal type activity that happens in people's homes is energy based. I do think that portals can be opened to allow negative entities in, but it really does all come down to energy. But I also think that in many ways, this world is what we make of it. So if we obsess over something, we manifest it. So he wanted me to come rid his home of these spirits. I wanted to, of course, help. So I agreed to go over, and I brought sage, which I do love sage. I don't think that sage is a cure-all, just how I tell people crystals are not a cure-all. I believe in energy. Sage helps break up negative energy. Energy can be heavy. We've all felt it when we've walked into a room and the energy in the room feels off or negative. Opening up the windows and saging can really help that. I also believe in positive affirmations, which are a lot of things that I use when I walk around people's homes to infuse light and love into their home. But I also take the time to teach them how to do it because, again, you can't have somebody come in and just fix things, which, of course, prior to me coming, he went online and bought a kit to fix things. And it doesn't work like that. But people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, oh, you're doing it wrong. You put the obsidian in the wrong place. Now you're going to have everything be perfect. That's ridiculous. So I ended up spending about 2 hours at this guy's house. I learned that his wife had passed away, and I think that he was dealing with a lot of loneliness, which is to be expected. And my heart went out to him. I really empathized with him. He was a super nice man, and I think that he was definitely experiencing something. I picked up on some negative portal type energy. We did crystals around them. We saged. And then I wanted to talk to him about standing in your truth, because I do believe that as Christians that we can stand in the light and power of Jesus Christ, and that anything negative won't even mess with us if you have everything on lockdown. But we have to be very strong in that. We have to have conviction. We have to truly believe it. It can't just be empty words. So I tried to teach him those things, and long story short, he kept texting me saying that things were still happening and the entities were getting stronger. And I tried all I could. I researched and I took time on my own to send him all of these different methodologies. And he kept saying like they weren't working. And I was like, I don't know. Like, of course I can come and we can do like a deep trying like to contact the spirit, but I was like, I don't really do that. But I felt this urge to help him still. But yeah, he stopped reaching out to me, and I just like felt, well, I felt bad, but I also felt like, how can people be frustrated when I'm being honest? I'm sorry that I don't want to sell you a bunch of crap that isn't going to work. I'm sorry that people don't want to hear the powers within you. People don't want that. People want the easy fix. And with what I'm doing now and how far I've come, I've learned that we can't save everyone. And sometimes we have to see when people are not ready to do the work and walk away. Now, how is this different from coaches who say this to clients? Sometimes maybe it is truth. I think that where we get into trouble is when people are pushing out this branded package. So if you have a coaching program and you do the same exact thing for every single person and it doesn't work, well, I would think it doesn't work because you're not trying to customize it to them. We are all completely different energetic beings, which is why with this gentleman, I tried 10 different things and different ways of trying to get through to him, different ways of trying to help, offered different methodologies to help the situation and clear it. And who knows, maybe it did work and he's really busy and that's why he stopped talking to me. I don't know. But I do know that keeping it authentic and real with people is something that I have to do. I can't feel that ickiness in my gut. I can't do the sales pitch. I'm sorry, I can't. And if hearing the truth, as I see it, hurts, I get it. I feel it too. But after all of my soul searching, I do know one thing to be true, and it's something that I continually remind myself as I do this type of spiritual work and feel the call to help others. You are not meant for everyone. You are here for those who see you, for those who are ready to feel into your energetic presence, for those who are going to truly discover and meet themselves through your work, not your performance, the work. You are planting seeds, and they may not bloom right away, but they will. Some of us are building something, and it's going to last beyond trends and metrics, and that is powerful. You're not being missed. You're being reserved for the ones who are ready to feel real transformation. For those who are ready for truth that doesn't just sound good, but lives and resonates within their bodies. So stay the course, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't pay off the way you hoped. Because this kind of work, it is not about quick returns. It's about eternal resonance. And yours is already echoing in ways you may never fully see, but others feel. We have to be okay with the shadows, and that starts with the ego. We talk a lot about ego and spirituality. Death of the ego, checking your ego, or even people claiming to not have an ego at all. Well, that's bullshit. The only thing that those people have done is traded in their obvious ego for a shinier, more enlightened version that sells. It's an ego cloaked in light. We can't ascend above our ego. We can't be high vibe all the time. This is basically spiritual bypassing. And these people are not healed. It's still avoidance. When people refuse to be accountable, when they use their higher self language to silence feedback, when they shut down connection because someone isn't vibing high enough, that's not leadership. That's fear, dressed up as sovereignty. I don't think most people go into this work with an inflated ego. I'm sure that they had a real awakening, a true remembrance. They felt different, feel guided, and know that they are here for something big. And then all of a sudden, people started listening. Suddenly, They're getting all these messages like, you changed my life, you activated me, you're the reason I'm awakening. And that's incredibly powerful. But if you're not grounded, it starts feeding something lurking in your shadow self. You start building a persona around being special. You become that thing that everyone looks to for answers, for guidance, for wisdom. It feels good, of course, at first. That sense of being chosen and having a purpose that's bigger than just you, and you found it. But somewhere along the way, the lines start to blur. And instead of simply being, these chosen people who end up getting all of these followers, they start performing. And that's when you begin to isolate yourself from the unawakened, putting yourself in a box marked enlightened, and others are placed in the box marked still waking up. They forget that they were once on the journey too. And they're not above anyone, simply walking a different path on the same journey. But the problem with this is that we lose connection. You lose touch with the very people you're supposed to be empowering, because you stop letting them see your process. The moments when you don't know the next step, when you're navigating doubt, and when you're feeling lost in the same way that they do. All of a sudden, your brand, you can't show them your softness, your humanness, your vulnerability, because it's risky when you're projecting this perfect image. Because people have to want to be like you. If they relate too much, why would they pay you to guide them? And that's what happens when your identity becomes wrapped up in this image of being more evolved or special. You become the product, not the person, not the soul in progress, the shiny version of yourself, polished to perfection and packaged for the world to consume. The mission, the real mission, is lost in the performance. The reason you started in the first place, your desire to guide, heal, to be of service, it becomes secondary to maintaining the image, maintaining the subscribers. When you're living in that image, when you're holding yourself above others, when you start isolating yourself in your specialness, you stop being able to connect with the humanity. And it's through our humanity, the messiness, the rawness, the imperfection, that the real healing happens. Because that's where others can see themselves in you. When we build personas, we forget that our journey is not a destination. It's a process. And it's not just our high moments that speak to people. It's the moments when we're unsure. It's the times we fall down and get back up again. It's the times when we question the very path that we're walking but show up anyway. When we start isolating ourselves in this illusion of more evolved or special, we're actually doing the opposite of what we're called to do. We're putting distance between ourselves and the people who need to know they are not alone. I mean, the kicker is, the moment you stop showing your human side, you stop being a guide. you start becoming a figurehead. And that's when the mission is lost. Because the mission isn't about being above others. It's about being with them. It's about walking beside them, hand in hand through ups and downs. Allowing yourself to be seen as human so others can feel safe to show up as human too. Your journey is their journey. Your shadows are their shadows. Your truth is their truth. And when we forget that, we lose touch with why we started this path in the first place. Not to be idolized, not to be worshipped, but to be a beacon, a mirror, a partner in the journey towards remembering who we are. So if at any point you feel yourself slipping into that persona trap, like you want to hide your vulnerability or your imperfections to maintain this certain identity, this is your reminder that your humanness is your strength. Don't lose it. Don't hide it, because it's the real you, the one with all the messiness and beauty, who has the power to heal and transform. But what does it actually look like to lead without ego? Obviously, the first truth is allowing yourself to be wrong. And that may feel counterintuitive, especially when we're conditioned to see leaders as having all the answers, as the ones who never falter, the ones who seem to always know the right direction. But if we break it down, true leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about showing up in your authenticity and your humility. It's about being comfortable enough in your own process that you can admit when you don't have all the answers, when you're still learning, when you're still growing. That's real strength. That's true wisdom. Letting yourself be wrong, giving yourself permission to do the same. Allowing others to see that you are also learning, to see your moments of doubt, to see your mistakes, and in doing that, you humanize the leadership role. You show them that growth isn't linear and transformation is not a destination. It's an unfolding, a continuous journey. And that's powerful. It's not just about admitting when you're wrong. It's also about admitting when you don't know. There is such a pressure in spiritual spaces, in leadership spaces, to always have the answers, to always be the one who's tapped in, always channeling, always activated. But no one has all the answers. Not me, not you, not anyone. And that's okay. Because the magic happens when we're willing to be in a conversation. When we're willing to sit with each other in the unknown, in the mystery, in the questions, holding space for the unanswered instead of rushing to fill it with this illusion of certainty. Then you're closing the door to learning amazing things. I've had some of the most beautiful realizations when collaborating with others. Our egos want to be an expert. They want to stand up and yell, "Look at me, I've got it all figured out." But true leadership doesn't need that. True leadership is facilitating the conversation. It's in the mutual exchange, the co-creation of wisdom that happens when we drop the hierarchy and embrace the collective. The willingness to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to explore this with you." When we lead without ego, you stop measuring your worth by how much you know or how much you can teach. You stop thinking that being chosen means you're better than anyone else. Because being chosen doesn't make you above others. It makes you accountable to them. When we step into these leadership positions, which we need to start acknowledging that these influencers are in one, you're stepping into a responsibility. One that's not about fame, not about praise, but about holding space for others to grow, heal, and remember who they are. It's a sacred responsibility, and it requires humility. It requires understanding that the very people you're guiding are just as powerful as you, just as deserving of the truth, and just as capable of their own transformation. You are here as a mirror, not a megaphone. And a mirror will reflect the light, the darkness, the depth of what is without judgment, without pushing. The megaphone just amplifies the noise. And that's the difference between ego-driven leadership and soul-led leadership. The megaphone demands attention. The mirror invites it. True spiritual leadership is quiet. It doesn't need to dominate the space to feel valid, and doesn't need a shout to be heard, control or manipulate any situations. It simply is. It holds space. It roots down and reflects the light of those who are ready to see it. And you don't need to be worshipped to feel worthy. In fact, if your leadership requires worship, it's time to take a closer look at it. Because the more you feel that need to be worshipped, the more you're operating from a place of ego and adding to that separation. We don't want that distance. You're disconnecting from the very essence of spiritual service. That true leadership that's worthy, not because it demands validation, but because it walks in humility and grounds itself in service. It connects to others from a place of solidarity instead of superiority. We need to hold that space for others to rise without needing to be the one who has all the credit. So when you're leading without ego, you understand that you're part of something bigger than yourself. You're not the end-all, be-all of someone's journey. You're simply a guide for a moment of time, a companion, a fellow traveler on the path. And that's the role that requires deep love, deep compassion, and deep humility. And that is the path that I am trying to be on with you. I try as much as I can to be rooted in the being, not the performing. Because I do know that you can lead with the same grace. And we are all meant to start this chain reaction of teaching and leadership. So if you've been feeling this tension, watching spiritual spaces shift and wondering to yourself, am I the only one seeing this? You're not. And I'm here to tell you, you do not have to carry that alone. I know it can feel isolating. And it can feel like you're the one who's being too sensitive or too critical or not high vibe enough. And it's very easy to start questioning yourself whether you're the only one seeing the cracks in these beautifully polished facades of spiritual leadership today. But you're not alone in this. There are so many of us quietly holding this awareness, feeling a pull for something more grounded, more real, more connected. And you're also not being judgmental. You're discerning. And that is a gift. To be able to see through the illusion, to see the difference between performing and true presence, between that superficial connection and deep, authentic, soul-to-soul exchange. That's a rare and precious gift that serves the collective. And it's not just by calling out what's wrong, but by shining light on what's possible when we all come back to our roots. So if you're carrying this awareness, know this. You're not just seeing things, you're feeling them. And that is so important. Your ability to discern the difference between what's real and what's flashy smoke and mirrors is necessary. It's vital. You have the wisdom and clarity to hold the space for what needs to be seen, even if it's uncomfortable. We have to decide to be the kind of leaders, creators, and channels who stay rooted in our humanity. Leaders who remember that at the heart of all of this spiritual work, at the very core of it, we are still human. We are not perfect. We are not above each other. We are walking this path together. Each of us with our own unique gifts, our own healing, and our own challenges. I'm talking about holding the frequency of truth, realness, and accountability. And not being afraid to acknowledge when we've missed the mark, when we've fallen short, or when we do need to realign. The way forward isn't about building platforms to elevate ourselves above others. It's about keeping ourselves rooted in the ground, rooted in humanity, rooted in humility, rooted in our service, and rooted in love. We are here to be embodied leaders who inspire from the inside out. The kind of leaders who lift each other up, walk with one another, and show others that we're all in this together, learning, growing, and evolving. So if this episode stirred something within you, I invite you to share it, should you feel compelled to do so. If you want to start that conversation, even if it's just with yourself, or leave me a comment. Because these kinds of shifts require dialogue. They require us to speak up, to hold space for the discomfort, to ask the tough questions, and to be willing to shift how we show up in the world. And if you're not quite ready to share yet, if you need some time to process, then just sit with it. Sit with the feelings that are rising up in your heart, your body, and let that guide you. Let it inform you the next step on your journey. Because we don't need to elevate ourselves to have impact. We don't need to rise above the fray to lead. The real power lies in being grounded, in being present, and in being with others, not above them. So let's make this a movement. Let's be the ones who show that spiritual leadership can be messy, vulnerable, and authentic. That it can be deeply connected to the real, raw parts of life. The types of leaders who aren't afraid to show that they're learning and to admit when they need to make a shift or a change. Let's root down and build the kind of community that honors truth, service, and the beauty of the shared human experience. Because I do see you, and I am so glad that you are here holding space with me. Thank you for tuning in. I hope today's frequency met you exactly where you are and moved you exactly where you're meant to go. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and remember, your light is your power. I'm Tiffany Haney, and this is Rooted Frequency. Be well, be whole, and I'll meet you in the next vibration. Bye.